Today we're going to talk about the geography of China. Here's an outline map of China, which includes Hainan Island at the bottom, and then over to the right includes Taiwan. Not everyone considers Taiwan part of China, but for the purpose of geography, it doesn't really matter. To get an idea of where China is, we take a look at this bigger map, which shows China within Asia. It's the pink country in the middle. You can see the shape is the same. Gives you an idea. It's just below Mongolia, which is below Russia. Beneath China is, of course, Southeast Asia, and that larger country a little to the left below China is India. Gives you an idea of where China is relative to the rest of Asia. China is a big country. It's one of the biggest countries. Of course, it has the biggest population, over 1.3 billion people, over 4 times the population of the United States. But if you look at this map, which is a map of the United States and China superimposed on each other, you get an idea that China is very similar size to the United States, although our population, as I said, is less than 1/4 theirs. This next map gives us an idea of the varying elevations in China. One of the challenges for the Chinese is that China is so varied geographically. The green portions you see towards the eastern coast are relatively flat, low parts of China elevation-wise, and that, of course, is where all the agriculture is. As you move west, the elevation rises again in the yellow part, and then, of course, the Tibetan Plateau is over 3,000 meters high. Average is probably about 4,000 meters high. Here's another map that shows it perhaps a little better. The green area, again, on the eastern coast is where all the agriculture takes place, and that's relatively flat, although from this you can see that there are still a lot of mountains. Then as you move east, except for that basin there, which right in the middle, which is Sichuan, it starts to go up. And then, of course, northern in the west is the desert. So that's actually not as high as the Tibetan Plateau, the Tibetan and Qinghai Plateau as it's known, which, as I said, is on average about 4,000 meters. That's over 12,000 feet. This map gives you an idea of the major rivers in China, and rivers are a big feature of Chinese geography. You see the one in the far north, which borders, of course, Russia. You see the one in the northern part of China. That, of course, is the Yellow River. You see the one in the middle. That is the Yangtze River, and the one at the bottom is the Pearl River. But one of the things you see, and we'll see more clearly on the next slide, is that China is covered with rivers, and this map is actually the best I've seen that gives you an idea of just how many rivers there are in China. These are the major rivers, but there are just literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small rivers. And what I did is I blew up a portion of this map around the Yangtze, and you can see that there are all these tributaries and smaller rivers literally all over the place, which, by the way, made travel in China very difficult. Easy to go down a river, but hard to get across a river. So always made travel in China, that and the mountains, very, very difficult indeed. Politically, China is divided up mostly into provinces. There are some provinces that are known as autonomous regions, and there are some cities, specifically Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, and Chengdu, Chongqing, which are administrative regions in and of themselves. That is, they don't report to a province. But you can see that the provinces kind of get larger as you go either north or west. And last, we have a map of the population density in China. What we see, the red is the most densely populated areas. And in fact, on some maps, Shanghai is black. It's so densely populated. But the dark red areas are pretty highly populated. which makes sense since that's where we saw on the topographical map the green areas. In other words, that's the breadbasket, that's where the agriculture takes place. Then the light brown, the caramel areas are slightly less populated, and of course the yellow areas are relatively sparsely populated. The white areas are uninhabited, the desert and part of that Tibetan Plateau region. So there's a look at the geography of China.